Hey everybody, welcome back to another Dice Tower review. My name is Zee Garcia.
And I am Joey Evans.
Today we're taking a look at Gosu 10 here.
Gosu.
Which is a re-implementation of a previous game that was called, surprisingly enough,
10.
Gosu. You're so close.
I was close.
You guessed, but you
There's two words. I picked one. I was wrong.
Yeah, you were wrong. So Gosu was, and still is, I suppose, a two-player sort of combat game in which you are building up your tableau, messing with each other, drawing cards, activating abilities, in order to, when you go to this great battle, have more strength on the table than your opponent.
Right.
Manage to do that a couple of times and you win the game. The original game was the same way. So is this one, but they've changed a lot in this. So even if you know the original game, you should watch this. If not, well, let me give you a look at how the game operates on the table. We'll come on back after that and we'll give you some final thoughts. The game is going to be played over multiple rounds, normally 2 or 3, and you are trying to earn these tokens here, which you will win at the end of a great battle if you have more strength than your opponent. Earn 2 of these first, and you win the entire thing. But the very first thing that needs to happen is the players need to draft their factions, the groups that are going to make up their deck of cards, and that they are going to use to go up against their opponent. So we decide on a random start player. We'll go with the player who would be sitting over here. They're going to pick one of these factions. So they'll take this one. The second player will select 2 of them. So we'll say they'll take that and that. The first player takes their last 2. So they'll go with this one and they'll go with this one. And then they have all 3 of theirs. And then this player takes their last one. So 1, 2, 2, 1. Okay? This player will take this one right here, and they are done. Now, these tokens here represent those factions that were just taken. And in fact, the players are going to line those up on their side to show which things which of the factions they have taken, all right? The last 2, the ones that have not been taken, i.e. these 2 here, are going to be selected, flipped over, and they have an overall effect on the game, okay? So these effects, sort of global effects, and they will affect the game in different ways. So not just the ones you take, but the ones you leave might have a great effect on the game, okay? And that's what these are for. So this player has their 3 over here. The players are going to, we'll put these 2 away, the ones that weren't selected, and the players are going to shuffle up their decks of cards and get ready to begin the game. With that done, the players are going to draw a hand of 7 cards and begin the game. So the idea here is the players have in front of them an imaginary grid that they can fill up with cards, and they can have up to 15 cards in front of them. 5 across the bottom, another 5 above that, and a final 5 across the top, with each of those representing levels and different kinds of characters. For example, level 1 cards, such as this one here, are called troops, and they go across the bottom. Then there are level 2s that go above that, and level 3s that go above that. All right? All of the cards will be unique except for the level 1s at the bottom, of which there are 2 copies of each. And they all have different abilities and different effects that they will trigger. So on your turn, you are going to do one of a few different actions. And the players will go back and forth until one of them passes. Then the other player gets up to 3 more turns, which you'll use this to track. Then they are done, and we will compare the total strengths on the table and see during the Great War, which is what that step is called, who has the most strength, and they will earn one of these. Each player begins with these 2 tokens as well, and they could unlock up to 2 more throughout the game. That's a possibility. So talking about playing cards, which is one of the actions that the players can do. You will play a card. To play a card, if you have no cards at all, you must play to the bottom row first, and that placement is free. Later on, if you play a card to the bottom, and you have no cards at the bottom of that color, of that kind, then you must discard any 2 from your hand to pay for that card placement. To play a card above that, you must have that color represented in the first row in your troops, and it does not matter that the cards line up or anything, you just have to have that card represented, and you may never have more cards in your second level than you do in your first. So for example, this placement here would be fine. If I was going to play another level 2 in blue, I could not do that because I don't have enough cards at the bottom. All right, so having this, that would be fine. I could play this level 1 because it's already represented in my bottom row. That would be free to play that card there. I would not be able to play this level 3 because just like a level 2 needing a level 1 below it somewhere of that color, to play this, I need to have that color represented somewhere down here and somewhere all the way at the bottom. All right, so that's how that works. Playing one card, and if it has any white text that is not in italics, you would go ahead and trigger that ability. Okay, so that's the main action you're going to be taking. Another action you can do is you can do a shift, and a shift is you may discard cards from your hand equal to whatever the shift cost is and replace this card with another card. And it does not care about you needing a specific color below it or anything like that. You can just flip one card, basically get it out of there and replace it with a different one from your hand, okay? So that's another thing you can do. You can spend one of your activations or both. You can spend one of these on a card to do the ability on that card. You could spend one here to draw a card from your deck, or you could spend both at the same time to draw 3 cards from your deck, and your hand size here will be limited. You're gonna, quickly run out of those cards if you don't do some of these action. And then the last thing you can do is pass. Now, in order to pass, you have to have spent your tokens here, your activation tokens. You cannot pass having some of those. And then, like I said, the other player will continue playing, but they only get 3 more turns. Once that's done, then we are going to compare our strengths. Now, every card at level 1 here, all the troops, have 2 strength. All the ones at level 2 are going to have 3, and all the ones that go up at the top have strength of 5. So you add all that up. If you have a full column, that's pretty easy. That's 10 strength, 5, 3, and 2. So for example, if I have this, which is perfectly legal, by the way. It would also be legal if I had this. Let me just impart that, make sure you understand that. This would be 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 strength. If I had more than my opponent, I would earn one of these when we do that great battle. And then we have to give up half of our cards that are in our display. They go away. We draw back up, and we go into the second round, okay? This continues again until I win 2 of those, or they do, which normally could happen in 2 rounds, might take all 3. There's also some other tokens here, like this wondrous token that might go to one of the clans, these ethereal tokens that might go to the players. Basically, a lot of abilities are printed on these that are going to change up the things that happen, and there's quite a few keywords as well. Things like, there's ideas like capturing cards in which you flip over one of your opponent's cards and it's been captured, doesn't count. There's the idea of capturing an opponent's bounty card. If you capture one that's a bounty card, says bounty has this gold frame, then you get to draw a card. My opponent captures that, they get to draw one of my cards. And there's, like I said, many other abilities. I'm not really going to go into all of that right now because it's simply too much. There's a lot of different abilities in here. But that's ultimately what you are doing. Using these to draw more or trigger abilities, building up your tableau of up to 15 cards and trying to win. I will say that there are many alternate ways in which you can win the game. For example, this right here gives you one of them right there. It says when you win a great battle with a difference of 10 or more in military value, you immediately win the game. This would not normally be an option if somebody had drafted one of these factions. And instead, it might have been this. It might have been this one that says, at the beginning of the great battle, your military value is increased by 1 for each card in your hand. So that would change the combat tremendously. It would be a big shift on how you play, what you are trying to do. Card draw is considerably more important when the Phoenix is not one of the ones that was taken, that was drafted at the beginning of the game. So there you go. Again, just a little bit of an idea of what's happening in the game. I'm not going to go into any more detail than that, but let's go ahead and go back up top, get some final thoughts. I'm surprised, and I know you don't know the original game.
I do not. I have never played the original game.
You've never even seen it, probably.
I've never even heard of the original game.
Well, here's the thing, and what I think is a little bit of a weird idea, okay? This is a game that, again, is based on that original concept, and in many ways, lots of the mechanisms are still the same. You know,
Right.
15-card grid at most, fighting for strength, what have you. The original game is called Gosu because it stands for Goblin Supremacy. All the little clans, all the little groups were little goblins, like the fiery red goblins and some crazy dark goblins. And that theme is fully gone.
There are no goblins.
There's like a picture of a goblin in one of these, you know what I mean? But so I'm not sure why this is still called Gosu. Doesn't really have anything to do with that name anymore, but I guess a lot of people don't know what this stands for. And it is a weird game to re-implement and to go back to the drawing board on with a theme that, from what I understand, they've had in a few other of their games.
Right.
There's like a game called Immortal 8 or something like that. Something 9, and now Gosu 10. That's what this is. It's kind of in the same setting, same world. But I gotta tell you, they don't really do a great job of telling me what that world is. And in fact, that's one of my big knocks against the game.
No, and it's one of those that you want to know what it is. The artwork is great.
Artwork's fantastic. It's bizarre. It's ethereal and creepy and sort of evocative. But they don't really do a good job of telling you what is the theme here. If you take a look at the rule book, they have at the beginning here a tiny little paragraph talking about how there's these 8 immortals engaged in conflicts and you want to try to win. That's about it. And no point in here do they talk about those different groups, the different colors, whatever factions you can draft and play with. And that's a little problematic for me when you go to the back of the rule book. This is all the keywords, of which there are quite a few.
A lot.
And then this is the final page in the rulebook, which has an ad for Iki, another one of their games, and an ad for Galileo Project, another one of their games. This could have been used to give me lore, to give me a little more theme, even to explain to new players, what do these factions do? Like, give me a little more so that you ease the step to getting playing. Because I think we both enjoy the game. We'll talk about the things we like, but the gameplay is interesting.
That's the biggest thing. At its core, it's going to go against, whether it should or not, games like Summoner Wars or Radlands.
Yes.
And I don't think it should be compared to those at all. I mean, 1v1 is pretty much where that ends. Because this, when you draft those factions, that first time you're going to get crushed if the other person knows. Because you need to work on synergy and know what each one does and start discarding the right cards to bring in the right cards. There's a lot to unpack, but it's a simple game. It's deceiving how simple the game is, but how deep the strategy is on it.
I think so, yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. The gameplay is not that bad, especially if you're someone who is used to trading card games, collectible card games. This is going to give you a lot of those same emotions, the same ideas. But you're right, and we've discussed this. The more we play with, the more it becomes clear to me, at least, and I think you agree with me here. This game has a lot going on under the hood.
It really does.
On the one side, that's the one side of the coin. And then on the other side of the coin, boy, is this game not newbie friendly.
It is not. Now, it's weird to say that because you don't want to make people think it's too heavy. Because they can play the game.
Yeah, it's not heavy. It's just not welcoming.
They're going to get creamed.
You're going to take a little bit to go, well, I just picked 3 factions that kind of looked cool.
Right.
And the other player, knowing the game, is going to go, well, you shouldn't have comboed the guys who do Echo with the guys that do this with the other thing. You're like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. And again, that's why I think this could have been used to help with that.
Right.
You could have you have the real estate anyway. You're putting a couple of ads in there, which I'm not a big fan of, by the way, in the rule book.
No, or on the side of the box, but yeah.
Use it to help your game succeed. I worry about how many people are going to pick this game up, maybe because it looks cool, maybe because it's sort of strange. Try it once and go, I don't think this is for me. Because they couldn't go in here and go, ooh, this faction does a lot of whatever. I want to try them.
Which is a pity because it's a great game.
It's a great game. It is a very good game.
And they should have more strategy tips, I think, is a real thing that's essential when you go in. Because I tried to play my latest game as the game before, but the people I had a different strategy. I was getting creamed. Then I realized there's another way to win with a certain faction, the Justice faction. And it's interesting, but I knew none of that going in.
Right.
I just looked at the stars. You're like, okay, this, I've got it. So I thought I knew them, but you don't.
Yeah. Now, as far as the gameplay, and so again, those are the things I'm picking on as far as negatives, in my opinion. Gameplay and some positive things. Yes, the game is very interesting. It's a game that's going to give you that deep bench CCG feel while you purchase just this one box. I almost called it a core box. That's not a thing. It's just the only box. You know, you have all those factions. And it starts to get interesting even from the moment you draft, because the two factions no one picks affect the game, and not in like little ways, in serious ways. Like those are very different, important changes of the two factions you didn't even pick. So it's something to consider there. This is a game that, again, they've touted, both in the rulebook and I think I saw it online, that they've play tested this thing for like 4 years, thousands upon thousands of play tests, and I believe it.
I do too, and that's normally I doubt that stuff. Play testing means that they probably played it once a month, and then just for 4 years or whatever. But this has a lot of play testing, even to the fact that the factions you pick, of course, matter a lot. But the factions you don't pick matter a lot too, because you reverse. You're like, well, I don't want to go up against that. Limit my hand size or whatever.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, I'm going to take this faction because I don't want to be hit with this. And man, there's just so much going on with these.
Yeah, there's a lot of interaction as well between the players, so it's not a game that you're going to be doing your own thing. You'll definitely be messing with each other back and forth.
Right.
You have alternate ways to win with some of those level 3 characters that you can try to manipulate, unlocking more of your little tokens to do more. There's a lot going on. This is a game that manages to pack a lot into a fairly short time frame. You need to unpack a lot of strategy, a lot of combinations, what you should do, when you should do it, when do you pass, when do you draw cards, reactivate an ability, all of these things. The layers are deep in this one, I would say. And I don't think it's a very newbie-friendly game. I think it's not at all, in fact.
No, I think this is going to reward multiple plays. If you're looking for one that you're going to play once or twice and that's it, you know what? There's a lot of other 1v1s out there that are
easier to do that with. Yeah. So, yeah, there you go. Any other final thoughts? Anything I'm forgetting to mention?
No, and I just don't want to leave on a negative thing. Like, if you are willing to invest in this type of thing, because really, if you like CCGs, this is the way to go.
Oh, my goodness, yes, absolutely. I mean, the production is great.
It's fantastic.
Okay, all the wooden tokens, the cards. The card quality is pretty good. It's not superb, and I do wish they had not gone with black borders on the back.
Yeah.
I've got mine sleeved here, but I wish that they hadn't gone with the black backs. You know, that's going to show wear and tear, especially for something, again, ideally you're playing a lot.
Right.
But the tokens, the board, the central board, everything is... Yeah, this is a great production. The game, you are going to keep coming back to this as you explore, gnaw on it. This is like a bone of a game.
It is.
You know, you play it once and you just keep kind of gnawing on it. And you come back, try it again, and you go, okay, things are starting to click the second time. Let me try again. Okay, more things are coming together. Now I'm starting to think of combinations of things. Now I'm starting to understand why I draft or don't draft something.
Right.
It's just you just keep gnawing on that bone. And if you are someone who likes trading card games, but you don't want to invest the money generally that goes into those, absolutely, I think you're right. You should definitely get this.
It really is. Now, as far as score-wise, we going to score now?
Let's do it.
So here's the thing. I went back and forth on this, but a lot of games... Now it's hot to boast hundreds of hours of playtime, right? Every campaign game has it. So why not look at a game like this? Because you could play this for a long time and get better and better and better at it.
Yes.
And that is where this game shines. If you are willing to put in the time to play this, it's going to be fun every play, but you're going to figure new nuances out. And hopefully you have somebody to play against because you're going to crush somebody if they're not.
You want to play with the same person, ideally.
Right.
You want both of you to sort of grow with the game at the same rate.
Right, because you're going to have your own favorite factions or faction combinations, and then you're going to start hate drafting knowing that I don't want to give them the Phoenixes, I don't want to give them or whatever.
Yeah.
That type of synergy is great. So I'm going to come in at an 8 on this because it is a fantastic game. If you're willing to just play it and have a blast and have this keep hitting the table, it's going to reward you.
I agree, and that's very, very good points there. I'm also giving this one an 8. The reasons that I really like this style of game generally, and I like the original Gosu. This is weirder. It's a little deeper than the original game, I would say. It does feel more, again, play-tested, and that comes through.
Yeah.
The reasons I'm holding it back are some of, like I said, some of the issues I have with the production here. Wasted space in the rulebook. The keywords are all here only, and I do wish that they had given me an extra card per faction listing keywords and concepts for each of those factions. So when I draft my 3, I have a card in front of me that says Secret Shift and what that means, and Wondrous and what that means. And I'm like, okay, cool, I got it. This is going to help a lot. I don't have to keep going. Hand me the book again. What's Force of Will? Oh, got it, okay.
Right.
That would have helped, okay?
I agree.
So there's a few issues that hold it back for me, but in that ideal setting, like you're talking about, there's 2 of you, you both enjoy trading card games, or you used to maybe, and you're looking to rekindle some of that love, but you don't want to get into a brand new one, or you don't want to like dig out Magic the Gathering and sort of get invested again in something like that. I think this game absolutely is going to go the distance.
I do too.
You know?
It will reward you with multiple plays, which is a rarity for a lot of games today. Some of them start to lose their luster at multiple plays, and this one will probably shine.
Right. Yeah. And again, on the flip side of that, don't forget it if you know you're not ready to put in the time, because I think it's going to feel, it's just not going to be at its best the first few times you play. You have to invest in it, and it will reward you. So there you go, folks. That is Gosu 10. 8 out of 10, 8 out of 10. And that's going to do it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. My name is Zee Garcia.
I'm Joey Evans.
Have fun dueling head-to-head.
With less goblins.
Wow.